You can. I don't know if you want to. Did you want to use PowerPoint or not?
No, I didn't plan to.
Then you don't need to. I was just going to say, if you did want to, it's possible for you to do that, but that's okay. So what I'm going to do is a pledge.
Hello.
Oh, okay, they got here. Okay, I was waiting. That's Linda and David. Linda, we got Bob tonight.
Okay. Okay, we are in the mountains near Grand Canyon,
Okay.
and I'm going in and out of cell service.
Yep,
Okay, and they just went out. That's what I said. Remember, I said he's probably traveling.
So if I have it for a couple of minutes, did you get me? Yeah, I am in Grand Canyon right now. We're going to be in Flagstaff in about an hour.
Okay, all right.
Good to see you, Linda.
Well, I'm glad you were able to make it. I'm just getting
Nice
ready
to see you.
to open the meeting.
I'm glad you got all my emails and everything, or my text.
Yes, ma'am, sure did.
So,
Okay, good.
is David there?
We had 16, yeah, David's driving.
Do you want me to run the
He's
meeting
not
then?
going to be conducted. We sure do.
Okay, I'm just asking.
We were near Salt, okay, we were in Salt Lake last 2 nights. We had 16 inches of snow yesterday.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm good on that.
It's supposed to ice tonight. I got to drive to the bus depot in the morning. I'm doing a Rotary Club Thursday morning at 7 a.m. So I'm driving. I'm not driving. I'm taking the bus and renting a car and going to a hotel.
Where?
Let me see.
Where is?
Let me look. I got to look at my calendar. What's today? Let's see. Thursday.
We were snowed out.
League City. League.
Oh, down to Houston.
Down near Houston. Yeah, I didn't want to drive it, so I'm just taking the bus, renting a car. I'll sleep over. It's 7 a.m. I can't get there at 7 a.m. unless I'm there the night before. So I'm going to sleep over. And then
Yeah.
I'm just hoping that the roads are passable in the morning. It's supposed to be bad tomorrow.
This morning it was 11 degrees.
Whoa, that's a lot worse than here.
And now it's up to 31.
Oh, that's
How
pretty-
is it, Bob, where you are?
Oh, it's been fantastic. 60s. It's been
Nice.
t-shirt and short weather.
Oh, yeah.
Certain shirts.
We were supposed to go visit a friend. We were supposed to go visit a friend in Colorado, and he says, don't, because a snowstorm's coming through.
Oh, okay.
Oh, be
So
safe.
we've had to make a detour.
So I'm going to start the meeting, Linda, because it's time. I'm going to let you do the benediction, the affirmation.
Oh, I tell you, so just go ahead and start the meeting.
Okay,
'Cause
then,
right now, I have got one bar.
okay,
So
then
I'm
I'll
getting
just do a
ready to be
pledge.
knocked off.
We'll just go right to the pledge.
Okay.
Let's do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of
flag.
America and to the republic for which it stands,
republic
one nation, under God,
one nation,
indivisible,
under God,
with liberty
indivisible,
and justice
with
for
liberty
all.
and justice
Welcome,
for all.
welcome to the, let's see what's today, February 4th, Rotary, North Texas Rotary E-Club meeting. We have Bob, Linda, and David and myself, and we have a great speaker, Roy. I don't have any business that needs to be discussed tonight. Linda, is there anything you need to bring up before we go to the speaker?
No, we will be going, I guess, to the round table on Saturday. We're getting in a day early. So I
Okay.
guess we'll go to the round table Saturday.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over.
And the
to-
round table is the monthly business meeting of the district.
Okay. And I will turn it over to Roy in a second. Roy, when I turn it over to you, I usually mute my mic, so if my dog barks or there's any noise, it won't go on the recording and disturb anyone. And if you need us to interact, then I'll come back on. Sometimes the speaker will want us to answer questions or something. So I don't want you to think I'm ignoring you. I'm doing it so you won't have disturbance. Okay, so this is our speaker tonight, Roy. Roy, can you introduce yourself and tell everyone what you're going to be speaking on?
So my name is Roy Red. I'm a 4-time best-selling author. I speak all over, speaking on performance, on mindset and mental health, communication, and I work with athletes on what I call unbounded performance. And what I found was that in mental coaching, that it's tearing down society's concepts in the athlete's head or in people's heads that really gets them to perform. They already have what they need. They already know how to perform at a world-class level, at their highest level, at their potential, at their peak potential. But there's just things in their way bounding them. So the distinction I make is we make them unbounded and they naturally just perform better by showing them what they don't know that they don't know. So I just want to speak to you guys some ideas about potential and how you guys can be better in your business, be better in your life, and just perform at a world-class level in everything you do. You know, like I said, I travel all over the world speaking, but it hasn't always been that way. You know, I had a time in 2011 where I was broke, living out of my car, and I wasn't speaking to no one in my family. And I had this day that kind of changed my life. And I remember that morning I was having this nightmare. And in that nightmare, I was working this job that I hated. I didn't have any money. My bank account was overdrawn and I wasn't talking to anybody and I was just lonely and depressed. And when I woke up from that nightmare, it was actually my reality. And I remember that morning, I had this voice in my head that said, Roy, wake up, because I forgot to set my alarm and I couldn't be late to work because my boss said if I was late again that she was going to let me go. And so as this voice just woke me up and said, Roy, wake up. And I remember just like waking up groggy. I looked at my phone and, oh my gosh, I got to make it to work. I'm running late. So I hop up, brush my teeth, didn't even shower. And it was for me, it was a cold morning. It was about 40 degrees here in California. 60 degrees is cold. Like I got on I'm layered up if it's 60 degrees. And so I remember it was cold for us. And I drove this ugly 1987 Honda Civic that didn't have a heater in it. And to start this car, I had to push it, hop in, and then start it. I don't know if you guys ever had to do that with a car growing up or if you had like a beater car, but I paid $200 for this car and I didn't have any money and my old car broke down. So I jumped up, hopped in this car, turned it on, and my job is about 45 minutes from where I lived at the time. At the time, I lived in the Inland Empire, which is 45 minutes from LA. And my job was in LA, in downtown LA. And so I hopped on the freeway, and as I'm rolling on the freeway, traffic starts to build up. And LA traffic is crazy. It's probably worse than anywhere except maybe New York. And in LA, we have what's called the diamond lane or the carpool lane, where if two or more people are in that lane, two or more people are in the car, you can get in that lane and pass up all the traffic. And so I got in the diamond lane that day, and my thinking was, you know what, I'm gonna just get in the diamond lane. If I get pulled over, I get a ticket, whatever. It's like paying a bill. If I get caught twice a year, it's just like paying for a fast track, right? And so I hopped in the diamond lane, and the diamond lane was moving fast, and I just remember having this sense of relief that I wasn't going to be late because I was moving so fast in the diamond lane. And as I'm moving in the diamond lane, I had to listen to my own music in my head because my radio wasn't working. So I remember just like jamming out in my head, and then I started to smell smoke. And I looked down, and where the engine was, it was rusted out. So there was nothing between me and the engine. So you could just see the engine right there. It was like this small little V4 engine, and smoke started coming from it. And I remember I couldn't breathe. And then this car started to break down. And as the car is breaking down, I'm just like, oh my God, no, I can't be late to work. And at the time they were working on the freeway. So there was a median, a wall between the diamond lane and the rest of the freeway. And so I was stuck. I couldn't just pull the car off or push it off. I was stuck in the diamond lane, and I got out the car and I looked up. When I looked up, I had 2 miles until there was a turnoff to get out of this diamond lane. And so I got out of the car and I did what I did, my whole life. I looked behind me to to see if the lady behind me would push my car with her car. And I remember her like yesterday, she drove this brand new E500 Mercedes. It was beautiful. It was black. And I remember her face too. She was beautiful. And she just kind of looked at me and shrugged her shoulders like, I can't help you. And I remember turning around angry, like, I can't believe this lady won't help me. And I started to push this car. And when I say I pushed this car 2 miles by myself, and the only thing that gave me the energy to do it is I was just full of adrenaline. I was super embarrassed. Even the Channel 7 news chopper was over me that day because the news chopper goes and says guy jamming up the carpool lane on the 10 freeway, and they were like beaming down the cameras on me. And as I'm pushing this car, I was just blaming everyone. I was mad at my family. I was mad at everybody in my life. I had broke up with my girlfriend at the time. And then it hit me that I was in this situation because of myself, my own choices, things that I did. And I started to tear up. I started to cry. And then I asked myself this question. I said, Roy, you're smart with all your skills and all your experiences. Why do you continue to self-sabotage yourself? Why don't you make your actual common sense your common practice? And I felt guilty, and a lot of us feel guilty when we don't do what we need to do in our business, when we're not performing as best as we can, because we know we could be doing better and we just don't, right? And I didn't know then, but now I know it's because of how the brain works and brain patterns, that your brain is just running on autopilot, the patterns that it had growing up. And finally, I got to the end of the median. I took my car off the road, and in LA, they have tow trucks that will tow you off the road because they want to keep traffic going. And this guy told me off the freeway. He said, you want to call AAA so you can get your car home? I said, I don't have no money. I don't have AAA. And this guy was a blessing. He said, you know what? It's my lunch break in a little bit. I'll take my lunch break I'll take my first break to take you back home. And he took his break. He took me back home. And when I got home, I remember just saying, if I messed up my life, then I can change my life and make my life better. And I literally sat on my computer and I typed in how to be successful on Google. Like, that's how desperate I was. And this old white man popped up named Jim Rohn. And I remember clicking on his YouTube, and he was just singing to me like, you got to read, you got to do this, you got to do that. And from that point, I just changed my life. Fast forward, I got a new job about 2 weeks later, paying double the job I had. Life was starting to go better. And I started to read a book a week. And I've been reading a book a week since then. And one of the books I was reading on my lunch break at my new job was Steve Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And as I'm reading this book, this guy named Damian Black, who ended up being my first mentor, my first life coach per se, came in and was like, yo, you reading Stephen Covey? I love that book. I'm going to this seminar where all these billionaires and millionaires are going to meet up. And I said, and he asked me, did I want to go? And I said, yeah, I want to go. How much is it? And he was like, well, it's $5,000 a ticket. I'm like, I can't go. Like, I'm broke. I have no money. He said, no, I have 2 tickets and I have nobody to go with me. So you want to go with me? And so we ended up going. And at this seminar, I ended up seeing this guy speak. His name was JT Fox. And I remember at the time he was 33 years old, and just the way he was speaking, and he talked about how he had a hard time and how he used to stutter. And I just had this thought. I said, yo, if this guy could stand up here and speak like this, I can. And I ended up walking up to him at the end of the seminar and say, hey, how can I be a speaker like you? How can I do what you do? And he was like, it costs $70,000 for me to coach you, but I'll just tell you this, you got to write a best-selling book. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna write a book. And I didn't feel like I could write a book until I was successful. And so I said, you know what, I got to make six figures before I write a book. Like that's what success was to me, like six figures at the time. And so I started this small CPR business where I taught people in the in the healthcare industry, CPR. And between my job and my CPR business, I was able to attain that goal of making six figures. And then that's when I wrote my first book, which is called The Success Magnet, Cultivate the Five Values that Attract Success. And it was just a book about self-expression. And I ended up reaching out to JT Fox, that speaker, and he taught me how to make the book a bestseller, how to market it. And as I was launching the book in November of 2016, I get a call from an MBA skills trainer named Casey Truheke. And he says, hey, all this stuff you talk about in your book, can you do it in real life? Does it work on athletes? And at the time, you know, I was just a life coach, right? I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have a business. I didn't know anything about business. I wrote a book. I wanted to speak and I was life coaching, right? And so I said, yeah, I guess I can do it. And I had some skills because I would practice some of my mindset stuff and my coaching on my patients when I was in the medical field. And so I said, after my book launch, I'll come out and I'll talk to you. Then a day goes by, he calls me up. He says, I need you to come to Portland, Oregon right now. I need you to talk to my biggest athlete. And that athlete's name is Alan Crabb. Right now he plays for the Minnesota Timberwolves, but at the time he played for the Portland Trailblazers. And so he flew me in, we worked together, and doing the work that I was doing with Alan and some of the stuff I taught his trainer, he ended up having his career high and earning himself a $75 million contract. And from there, we reverse engineered what I did and what we did to get people to perform at at the highest level. And one thing my dad always says is everyone is an athlete, whether you're a mom athlete, dad athlete, actual athlete, rotary speaker athlete, whatever that is, everyone's an athlete. It's just different modalities of what it is you do. And so from there, I worked with Alan. He had his career high and he came back from a game and he said, you know, I want to work with you. I need this coaching. And I ended up charging him 10 grand a month for coaching over a course of 6 months. And I didn't have a business. I didn't know what I was doing. But that day was what birthed the business I have today, working with athletes and speaking all over the world. And I just wanted to share with you guys some of the mindset stuff that I do with people. One of the first things that we do with the athletes to make them realize their potential is we define potential. And potential is really hard to define because our potential is unlimited, right? We can pretty much do anything. We're elastic. They've proven neuroplasticity over a decade ago. And so I realized, I said, you can't do anything with infinity. So I said, what if we're always performing at our potential all the time? We can get a little more access to potential if we look at it like we're always performing at our potential every moment. And that's when I came up with an idea I called the mindset ceiling. We're always performing up to our potential, but only up to that mindset ceiling. And if we can figure out what that mindset ceiling is, define it, then we can raise it and mold it and automatically change our potential. And the way I define the mindset ceiling is how the world looks to you, or like I tell my athletes, how the game looks to you. And in neuroscience, they've proven that the perceptual patterns, how the world looks to you, is connected to the patterns that control your actions. And one of the exercises I give during my talks to prove that is I will take a water bottle and I will throw it at someone in the audience. I will lob it up to them and they'll just catch it, right? Because it looks to them as a catchable item. Then I'll take the water bottle and I'll come a little closer to them and I'll pull back like I'm going to throw the bottle really fast at them. And what do people do? They go like this, right? And so that's because the bottle looked to them as an uncatchable item. And one day I was testing this exercise with my dad, and I got up close to my dad and I act like I was going to throw the bottle at him. And he didn't go like this. He didn't even move. And so I thought my theory didn't work until I asked my dad. I said, what were you saying to yourself in that moment when I went to throw the bottle? He said, I don't know. I just felt like some way I would block it, some way I would figure out a way how to catch it. And then it hit me. What controls how the world looks to us is our self-talk. What we're saying to ourselves, the context we live in, the languaging we live in. And that is all I do with athletes, is I get them to create their own language and open up possibilities in their life, right? And so if we look at our life, in a circle, we have things that we know. We have things that we know that we don't know. And then we have things that we don't know that we don't know. And what people don't know that they don't know is that they're creating their experience with their language. And one way to prove that is if we look at the now moment, and I love Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now. If we look at the now moment and we try to see what we're experiencing in the now moment, and we tell ourselves what we're experiencing in that now moment, the moment we describe or tell ourselves what we're experiencing, it's not what we're experiencing because the now moment was a moment ago, right? And then what I realized was it's even worse than that, because the now moment was a moment ago. Therefore, we never really told ourselves what we were experiencing, because what we were experiencing is no longer. It was a moment ago. And so it hit me that we're actually creating our experience every moment of now, every waking moment, with our self-talk. And so if we can get a hold of that self-talk and generate the self-talk we want, we can get a hold of our lives, we can get a hold of our actions, we can get a hold of our thinking, because thinking doesn't cause action. Thinking is actually an action from the self-talk. What we feel, what we experience, our mindset, everything springs from that internal dialogue we have. And so the first thing we have to do is uncover that internal dialogue. What are we saying, right? It's going on so fast. Sometimes we don't even realize that what we're speaking and listening in our heads, because we do it faster than we're acting. You know, you'll notice if you read a book, next thing you know, your mind will wander. You'll be talking about something else in your head. That's because that self-talk is going on faster than the self-talk you're generating. So if we can uncover the self-talk that we have, then we can generate the self-talk that we want. And then all we have to do is become a powerful person, generate personal power, and the self-talk that we generate will start to manifest in the real world. And there's 4 ways to become a powerful person to do that. And the first way is through integrity. When we look at the definition of integrity, the definition says to be whole, complete, and undivided. And a lot of times we think integrity is some moral thing, but that's not what the definition says. It just means to be whole and complete and undivided. And so if we look at a wheel, a tire, and the tire has spokes in it, if we start to remove the spokes out of the middle, eventually that wheel won't be able to roll anymore. That's because it lost its integrity. It's no longer whole and complete. And so what is it about humans that we have to keep whole and complete in order to create and manifest and perform how we want? And the answer to that is our word. Being in integrity with our word, doing what we say. I tell my athletes all the time, something as simple as saying you're going to wash the dishes the night before a game and you don't wash those dishes. And then you go into the game and you tell your mind that I'm going to knock down this game-winning shot. Your mind's going to say, bullshit, dude. You didn't even wash some dishes last night. Why would I believe anything you have to generate, anything you have to say, right? And so integrity of word is that first foundation. Second is being real, being authentic, right? We uphold being authentic so much that we're afraid to admit the truth that there are some times that we are not authentic, that we're fake, right? And so you can become authentic immediately by being authentic with the fact that you're inauthentic. If I can admit that there's sometimes I'm not authentic, that ontologically, that language abstraction makes me authentic. Being authentic is communicating, hey, sometimes I'm not authentic, right? And so integrity, authenticity, and then taking total responsibility is the third foundation. And that's what I learned when I was pushing that car. When you take 100% responsibility for your life, and I don't mean blame, but I just mean as a stand that no matter what happens, I can impact this situation. That leaves you with power to always impact every situation, every business call, every relationship problem, any financial problem, anything that happens in your life. If you take responsibility for what you're experiencing, which you're the one creating it anyway with your self-talk, then you can get a hold of that self-talk. And lastly is to find something bigger than you. And I try to explain this to kids when I go speak to kids, is you're always going to have times that are extremely hard. Seth Godin calls it the dip, where you're just up against it. You don't want to go anymore. You're tired. Just that moment where you just can't do it anymore and you just want to quit and you're just done. What's going to get you through those moments and pull you through those moments is being clear about what's bigger than you, what's bigger than your life. What are you willing to die for? That could be a person, that could be a concept, that could be anything for you. But if you're clear about that, be authentic about it, take responsibility for it, say what you're going to do and do it, and say what you're not going to do and communicate and just be in integrity of word, then you can generate the self-talk you want. And by generating that self-talk, you can change how the world occurs for you. And by changing how the world occurs for you, you automatically change your actions, and then your actions change the world. And that's what we call being an unbounded being.
That's awesome. This is Bob. No, absolutely. I think too few people will tap into the potential that they've been given. The self-talk is tremendously important. Me and Howard have had numerous conversations about this, and I mean, the research is there with the neuroplasticity, and even in the Bible it talks about, as a man thinketh, in the book of Proverbs, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That self-story that he tells himself will manifest in his life. So we've got to be very, very cautious about, one, what influences we let into our life, and what is that internal dialogue. And I think having something bigger than ourselves drives that. I tell folks, who I am, but I tell folks that I'm a nobody right away. I said, but I represent somebody, and that's the war fighter. That's the guy and the gal out there on the front lines defending our nation. So right away, I turn it for me, my skills, my qualifications, my history, and I bring it right back to what really matters, what's bigger than me and what's bigger than all of us. And then just one thing that came to mind too, Martin Luther King Jr. said, you mentioned about finding something to die for. And he did that. He had such a large vision. And it's not when you found something to live for, it's when you found something to die for. He said one of the most profound things. He said, it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter. His vision was so big that nothing was going to stop it. And we're living in that, post-civil rights, movement today where that dream is alive. Where the walls of diversity and cultural and racial, really just don't exist anymore like they used to. So we've come a long way as humanity, but it took someone with a bold vision, a bold dream, and with a mindset that just changed really a nation, and I think even the world. So, no, very profound points you made, Roy. Tremendous job.
I have a lot of athletes, especially coming out now with Kobe passing away. I remember before he passed away, they would always say, like, dude was an a-hole. And then when we look at integrity, being in integrity is going to leave you looking like a jerk sometimes because you're going to be straight. And that guy he was straight all the time with everyone. No, I don't want to do that. Or no, I don't want to do this. And when you talk to someone straight like that, you can come off as a jerk. But he was such a powerful person. And I even found out that he used to say all the time that he wanted to pass away young. And, life and death is in the power of the tongue. And being such a powerful person, he literally manifested his whole life, man. He really did, being a powerful person.
You did a very good job. Excellent. There's a good story also. I enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you. That's the story I tell, man. That day, at the time, and even that whole year it really sucked, but looking back on it, it really was the best thing that ever happened.
It made you who you are. I find in a lot of times the things that cause our greatest pain and suffering wind up being our greatest assets at another point in our lives.
Yeah.
So I'm going to close the meeting we usually do with a 4-way test.
Mm-hmm.
And I did send you a link to the programs if you need any. And I gave you my email if you need anything from me. We'd love to have you as a member if you'd like to join as a speaker. I'll send you an application as a speaker. I joined because I could travel, and like you saw, they were in their car. It's a great organization, and it's also good for meeting and networking as a speaker. Like I just was speaking in Lawton, Oklahoma, and the mayor wants me to train the kids. I was in Chickasaw, Oklahoma, which is a small community. The mayor wants you to train the kids. I was in Whitebead, which is a suburb of Pauls Valley, which is really small. The nearest movie theater is 38 miles away, and that's the suburb. And they hired me to train the kids. So you do make good contacts as a speaker, but it's also doing good things to help people. Yeah. So we do a 4-way test at the end of each meeting, and I'll do that now. And then I'm getting up really early, so I'll probably send you the application in 2 days because I'm going to get up at 4 in the morning. The 4-way test are the things we think, say, and do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will be beneficial to all concerned. Thank you, Roy, and for doing a great job. I really enjoyed it. It's inspiring. You're a good speaker. You made a good decision to do that. Bob, I'm great. It's glad to see you. I hope to see you at more meetings. And I want to say goodnight to everyone. And those of you watching the videos, thank you for coming. Night, everybody. Thanks for coming. Bye-bye.
All right.